Welcome to Live Daf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem and welcome back to today's Daf, SOTAH Daf Yotes. We begin a brand new Perek Shlishi, around 12 lines from the top at the Mishnah. So in the previous Perek we learned that the Baal, the husband of this Isha who is a SOTAH, is responsible to bring a mincha on her behalf. So they bring the mincha to the Beis HaMikdash. The mincha which was contained in a kefifa mitzvahs, a basket made of surei dekel, some sort of palm, a tree residue, some sort of wicker basket. So the mincha was sitting in this kefifa mitzvahs, and now it's time for the husband to take it and give it to the kohen. So the husband takes the mincha out of this kfifa mitzvahs, and then he inserts the mincha into a holy vessel, like kli sharis. And he places the container with the mincha on the isha's hands, and now it's ready for tenufa, waving back and forth, up and down, which is done together with the kohen. How does that happen? So it's now in her hands, and the kohen comes over. The kohen maniach yod es yodoi mitachteha. The kohen places his hands beneath hers. Umeinif, and together they do the tenufa. We're going to learn in the Gemara that it needs to be a joint activity between the husband, the owner, and the kohen. And as Rashi points out, who is the ba'alim of the mincha SOTAH? Who is the so-called owner, the one who's actually is bringing the mincha? Who does it relate to? Says Rashi, he ha'isha. It's really hers. So perhaps husband pays for it, but it's something which is now relating to her. It's addressing her needs. So she is the ba'alim, and therefore she needs to be involved in the tenufa, which is done in conjunction with the kohen. Okay, so we do all the standard processes applied to a mincha. Heinif, they do the tenufa, higish. The kohen takes the mincha and he taps it onto the corner of the mizbeach. Kamatz v'hikter, he removes the kmitza portion, burns it on the mizbeach. V'ashar nechal kohanim, which allows the remnants of the mincha to be consumed by the kohanim. Now, of course, we're not ready to necessarily to be makriv the mincha, because look what the Mishnah says. Today's Mishnah on the upcoming sugya will discuss the two elements of this process. There are two stages here: mincha and the feeding her the water, the mei SOTAH. What goes first and what goes second? So according to Tanakama, according to the Rabbanan, first you drink, then you bring the mincha. Hayimashka, first the kohen would give it to drink, after which he brings the mincha. So actually, when the Mishnah spoke about the fact that they're makrav the mincha and etc., it's just like a description of the process in terms of how the mincha is processed. But of course, according to Shitas Chachamim, we're not ready for that yet, because first goes the water and then the mincha. Rabbi Shimon disagrees. Rabbi Shimon Omer makrivas mincha. First, they're makriv the mincha. That goes number one. And then he would feed her the water. Shenemar, look at the pasuk. V'achar yashka esa isha esa mayim. So after the pasuk describes bringing of the mincha, it says afterwards he goes and he serves her the water. But even Rabbi Shimon agrees that although lichat chila, preferably it's done in this order, mincha and then drinking, im hishka v'achaka chikaves mincha, so ksher, if you reversed the order. First the water and then the mincha, it's still kosher, as he learns from a pasuk in the Gemara. Amalei Rabbi Elazar, so Rabbi Elazar ben Pedas the Amoira, turned to Rabbi Yeshua the Dar, his contemporary. It was Rabbi Yeshua of his Dar, who was actually an Amoira on his level, as opposed to Rabbi Yeshua in the previous Dairis, who was a Tana who was much greater than him, and of course it wouldn't be appropriate to address him in this manner if he was someone much greater than him. Rather, it was somebody of his league. So he turned to him with a sort of challenge question. Don't sit down on your feet until you explain to me the following halacha. How do we know that in fact a minchas SOTAH needs to be weighed back and forth? Tnufa applies to minchas SOTAH. What do you mean, Manala? How do we know? The pasuk says that you do tnufa to a minchas SOTAH. It's right here in the pasuk Chafei. Rather, the question was, how do we know that the owner, in this case, the owner is the Isha, how do we know that she participates in this tenufa? Minolan, because the pasuk seems to be referring to the kohen who takes the mincha, he does the tenufa. How do we know the Isha is involved? So the answer is like this. Asya, we learned by the way of a Gzera Shav. Yad bishlamim. Using the word yad over here, and yad by shlamim, we connect it to ksivacha. Here in SOTAH it says, Kohen takes it from the hands of the Isha, so we have yad, uksivhasam, and elsewhere by the shlamim, it says yadav tibiyana, his hands will bring it. And Rashi says, the pasuk is a reference to the owner of the shlamim, who is involved in the tenufa of the various portions of the shlamim, which go to the kohen there, the chazav v'sheik. So we learn like this: Ma kan kohen, just like over here by SOTAH, we have the kohen's involvement, as the pasuk says, v'lokacha kohen v'heinev. He's involved in the tenufa. Af lahalan, likewise over there by the shlamim, even though it doesn't say kohen, we learn, yes, kohen, he must be involved in the tenufa. And then we connect it in the reverse as well. And just like over there by the shlamim, we know the owner is involved. Yadav, that's the owner of the carbon. He's involved in the tenufa procedure. Av kan balam, likewise over here by SOTAH, although we have no reference to the Isha doing tenufa, she's involved as well. Haketad, how about both doing the tenufa at once? Very simple. The kohen places his hands beneath the owner's hands. So by the shlamim it's the owner, by the minchas SOTAH it's the Isha umenev, and they do the tenufa together like that. So the Mishnah spoke about the various stages of the Hakrovas HaMincha. Heinev, Higish, Kamatz, V'hikter. And then it says, 1 second. First he gives her to drink. And after which he brings the Mincha. What do you mean? The Mincha is gone. It's already burnt. The Mishnah means like this. Seder. Minchas Oketzad. What's the process with respect to her mincha? What are the various steps involved in bringing her mincha? Let's not speak about the water. Let's just focus on the mincha itself. So that involves heinev, v'higish, kamatz v'hikter, v'ashar nachal kahanim, allowing the leftovers for the kahanim. But perhaps you first have to give it to drink before the mincha. We're not getting into the exact sequence of the system here. We're just discussing the various steps of the mincha. Now, whether mincha comes before water or after water, that's the next discussion. Ubashko gufa, regarding the seder of the hashkoah. Pligir Rab Shimon Rabbanon. We have this machlekes between Rab Shimon and Rabbanon. Rabbanon sav, Rabbanon hold mashkoah v'achakach makivas minchasa, first drinking and then mincha. Rab Shimon savar makivas minchasa v'achakach mashkoah, first the mincha then the water. Shenemar, as the pasuk says. After describing the mincha, it says, V'achar yashka, after which he gives her to drink. That's l'chatchila. But even Rav Shimon agrees that if he reverses it, V'im yashka, V'achar kachikar v'mis minchasa, it's the works k'shera. Why? And that we're going to get to in a minute. Says the Brisa, Tana Rabbanon. V'hishka, ma tamad laima. What's the point of the pasuk mentioning the word v'hishka? So before we proceed, it probably would be wise to take a look at a chumash, or at least at a psukim on the on the margin of the new Gemaras. So we'll see that in Bamidbar Perek Hey, from pasuk Chavdalad all the way to to Pasuk Chav Zayin, we do have an interesting thing. The Torah mentions giving, the Isha the water no less than 3 times. So first, the pasuk begins by describing how they scrape out they rub out the text, the nusach, into the water, the mechika. Then it says v'hishka es isha. He gives the isha to drink. And then it speaks about the mincha being brought. And then it says v'achar yashke es isha, after which he gives it to drink. So it's mentioning it again. And then in the next pasuk, pasuk Chav Zayin, we have again v'hishka es hamayim. He gives it the water to drink. Why does the Torah go through it 3 times? So again, it's mechika, the erasure, right? Scrubbing it into the water. V'hishka once. Then we have the mincha being brought. V'achar yashke, after which he gives it to drink. And then again, v'hishka es hamayim, he gives it to drink. So the Brisa will explain, we'll go through all the Lashonos, all the Psukim, and explain what each one had in mind. And we're going to have a total of 3 shittos. We're going to have Rabbi Akiva, Rabbi Shimon, and the Rabbanon. Tana Rabbanon, v'hishka. So this is going on the first v'hishka. What's the point? Well, v'hishka, we have it again later. So why does the Torah have to say it once and again? So Rabbi Akiva will hold that actually the mincha goes first. So the v'hishka mentioned before the mincha is sort of extra. Apparently it's coming to teach you something extra. And the answer is it's coming to teach you she'im nimcha ka megillah v'yimeres eini shoisa. So we learn from here that suppose the Megillah was rubbed into that water. And then she gets up and says, I'm having a change of heart. I'm not proceeding with this process. I'm not drinking. I refuse to drink. So she didn't admit that she's guilty. She didn't say Tmeya Ani, which would be sufficient reason to halt the process. Rather, she's just stubbornly refusing to proceed. I'm not drinking. With that explanation. This pasuk teaches us that we force her. Ma'ar arin oisa. We open our mouth. Mashkin oisa bal karcha. We give it to drink against her will. Divrei Rabbi Akiva. So the pasuk of v'hishka, the extra pasuk, says, look, once the water is ready, there's no way out. Now, of course, as Rashi points out, we're speaking after the mincha was brought. So although the word v'hishka that we're focusing on now is the first v'hishka prior to the Torah describing the bringing of the mincha, but in essence we're speaking about a later event, but the pasuk is just explaining to us that once you do the mechika, you proceed with giving of the water, meaning there's no way out. Once the water is ready, so you did the mincha, you have moichek, you have the water, you go for it, even Baal Karcha. Divi Rabbi Akiva. So 2 things we learn. Number 1, according to Rabbi Akiva, the mincha comes first, mincha and then mashka. And we also learned that if you had the mincha brought, then you will moichik the Megillah into the water, you're mashka bal karcha. Rabbi Shimon Omer, and Rashi says, at this point there isn't really much of a machlekes between Rabbi Shimon and Rabbi Akiva. They're both going to say pretty much the same thing. First mincha and then drinking, and that it works bal karcha. It's just that he learned it from a different, slightly different, twist on the psukim. There was a different type of drasha. Rabbi Shimon Omer, remember we have 3 times a reference to drinking. We have v'ishka, we have va'achar yashke, and we have v'ishka. Okay? Says Rabbi Shimon, va'achar yashke. What does it mean, va'achar? Afterwards, after all the above, bringing of the mincha, etc., he will give her the drink. La'achar kalamasam kulan. It's teaching us that drinking only takes place after all those steps. Lachar kol masim kulan hamurin lamala. All those above mentioned steps have been taken. Now it's time to drink. Magid. This teaches us that gimel dvarim ma'akvin ba, the following three things, hold back the process. Meaning, first these three things need to happen, and then you drink. Before the kaimotz was burnt, before the mincha was completed, no water. Before the Megillah was scraped down to the water, no drinking. Soon we're going to ask on this. Well, obviously, there's nothing to drink. Number 3, until she accepts upon herself the oath, the shvua, there's nothing to drink. After all this, now comes a time to drink. Asks the Gemara, what do you mean? So let's focus on that for a minute. So before the kaimitz was brought, there's no drinking. Why? Reb Shimon l'tamei. Reb Shimon follows his shita in the Mishnah, which says first mincha and then drinking. Right? The Amar, he said, makar bes mincha, and only then v'achakach mashka. The second item on his list was nimchaka megillah. That takes place first. Well, obviously, ad shal nimchaka megillah. Well, there's nothing to drink now. Elamai mashkla. Why would you think there's something to drink? There's no Megillah scraped into the water. What's the pasuk? Why does the pasuk have to tell us? You have to wait for the Megillah, of course. Amar of Ashi. The chiddush here is l'sheri shumoy nikar. He did rub out the Megillah into the water, but there's still some trace of those letters on that parchment. That's not enough. You have to scrape it out completely, and that's the chiddush. The next item on the list. So we say before she accepts upon herself the shvua, there's nothing to drink. So what are you telling me? There's no drinking until she accepts the shvua. Apparently, we can still write the Megillah. She can't drink before she accepts the shvua, but you can still write the Megillah, right? That's what it sounds like. There's no problem writing the Megillah before you give her the Shavuot. V'amar Rava, didn't Rava tell us? First comes Shavuot and then you can write it. Megillah SOTAH shekasva koidem shetekabel leo Shavuot. The Kohen wrote the Megillah SOTAH before discussing it with the Isha, before committing her to the Shavuot. It's worthless. So why do we need a pasuk that first comes the Shavuot and then the drinking? Well, the Shavuot needs to precede the writing as well. K'di Naspa was just mentioned, by the way, meaning, you're right. There's a more basic reason why you need the shvua before drinking, because you can't even get the text on the parchment before you give the shvua. So, bottom line is that Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Shimon both are of the opinion that in terms of sequence, mincha comes first, and then comes drinking. It's just a question of which pasuk to learn it from. They both agree that we can force her to actually drink it, if in fact the water was already prepared and ready to go. Now this is in contrast to the Shitas Chachamim in our Mishnah, Tanakama in our Mishnah, that first you drink and then you bring the mincha. But my Kamifski, what is this machlokes based on? Says the Gemara, Tlosa Kroi Ksivi. Because actually, as we mentioned before, the Torah mentions drinking 3 times. And the question is why? Each one has a plan, a purpose. And each one teaches us something else. And it all depends on how you analyze the psukim. That's how you get your respective result. So first we have Vihishka Sa'isha, Vihishka Kama, the first Vihishka. Then it comes Va'achar Yashka. And then it comes Vihishka Basrot, the last Vihishka. Why the repetition? So we have the Chachamim's track, which will result in them deriving that it's drinking and then mincha. We have Rab Shimon and Rabbi Akiva's track that results in the mincha coming before the drinking. Rabbanon Sabri, the Rabbanon hold Vihishka Kama L'Gufay. Well, the first Vihishka is for itself, to tell you the basic actual sequence, which is Shemashka V'achakach Makabes Minchasa. First you give it to drink and then the mincha. Straightforward. The next one, V'acha Yashka, what is that coming for? It's coming to tell you have to scrape out the letters completely without leaving any trace. So first you completely erase, and then comes va'achar, after which you give it to drink. Because that's the chiddush of that pasuk. V'hishka basra, the last v'hishka. Shem nimchal kamegila v'yimeres eni shoisa. If you prepare the water and she refuses to drink, you force her against her will. Ma'ara noisa mashka oisa balkarcha. So again, according to Chachamim, the first v'hishka is to tell you drinking and then mincha. Then the pasuk describes the mincha, and then va'achar yishka, telling you have to complete the process, fully scrape out the Megillah, and then you give it to drink. The last v'hishka, sometimes you have to do it against her will. So ultimately, according to the Chachamim, it's drinking and then mincha. But Reb Shimon disagrees. Let's start with the middle one. Va'achar yashke, lugufay. That's telling you the actual sequence. Because the pasuk speaks about bringing the mincha, and then va'achar yashke, telling you shemakar v'sminchasa v'achar kach mashka. First comes the mincha, then the drinking. Let's go back to the first v'hishka. V'hishka kamo. What's that for? To tell you that bidi evet, if you switch the order, you're okay. So in this respect, Rabbi Shimon disagrees with Rabbi Akiva. Again, lichatchila, Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Shimon agree that it's mincha then drinking. Rabbi Shimon comes and says, look, I have a pasuk, the first v'hishka, which tells you that even if v'hishka was the first thing on the scene, you gave it to drink before the mincha, it works, bidi evet. V'hishka kama is sheim hishka v'chakach hekrives minchasa k'sheira, it works. What about the last v'hishka? We haven't yet addressed that. V'hishka basra shem nimcha kamegila v'amra eini shoisa. This is similar to the Chachamim. Then if you prepare the Megillah, you erased it, and you have the water ready, and she says, I'm not drinking, ma'ara noisa, we force her mashkas balkarcha against her will. So again, according to Rabbi Shimon, the mincha comes before the shtiyah, right? Why does the pasuk say v'hishka all the way before everything, the beginning of the sequence, before the mincha is discussed, to tell you, but that also works. Rabbanon disagree. They say, well, if the first v'hishka is mentioned before the mincha, that means to say that that is the proper sequence. Rabbanon b'diavad le pasakra, the Torah wouldn't begin by describing a b'diavad case, and that it was done out of order, and it also works. No. The fact that the Torah begins with a reference to drinking before the mincha, in the case, that is the proper way of doing it. Now, just a point to mention, Rashi says like this, that although Rabbi Shimon just told us that at times you can do it against her will. So if you have the water ready, you can force her to drink it. That's only if it was done in proper sequence, says Rashi. If you erased it after the mincha, which is the proper time to do it according to Rabbi Shimon, so now you have it ready, she can't back out. But suppose they did it, too early, prematurely. They erased the Megillah into the water. They prepared it before the mincha, which was premature. Says Rashi, in this case, you cannot force her to drink it. So even after you bring the mincha, that's it. You can't force her to drink it because who told you to prepare it? Well, it's prepared. It's too late. No, you know what? I asked you to prepare it a half hour ago. You should have waited till now. You should have given me a chance to back out. So, according to Reb Shimon, you can't force her under these circumstances unless the Megillah was nimchak at the right time after the mincha was brought, because that's what it's meant to be, mincha and then preparing the water. Whereas Rabbi Akiva, says Rashi, Rabbi Akiva will hold that the first v'hishka is the one telling you that it works bal karcha, which indicates to us that even if the water was prepared ahead of time before the mincha was brought, which was obviously premature, you can still force her to drink the bal karcha once the mincha is brought. Interesting, side point, which the Gemara later will dwell on. Okay, so at this point, we have two basic approaches. We have the Rabbanon, who hold that it's drinking and then mincha. as per the simple meaning of the psukim. The pasuk starts with drinking before discussing the mincha, whereas Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Shimon reverse the order. They hold that it's first mincha and then drinking. Although the pasuk does mention v'hishka first, that's coming to tell you a new halacha. According to Rabbi Shimon, it's coming to tell you that b'diavad that also works. If it's drinking and then the mincha, whereas Rabbi Akiva learns that it's coming to tell you ba'al karcha, you can do it against your will. Be'ez Hashem, a little bit later, we'll go through all these shittas in the psukim, accompanied by a chart. Be'ez Hashem. Okay, so that's the Gemara up until this point. Question: V'savar Rabbi Akiva mashkin oisa ba'al karcha? Is it true that according to Rabbi Akiva, you can compel the isha to drink against her will? V'atani, we have a brisa where Rabbi Akiva seems to disagree with this approach. Rabbi Yehuda, he is the one who says kalboy shel barzel, some sort of brace, a metal brace, matil techpia, is inserted into her mouth to force her to keep it open to drink the water. Shemnim chaka megillah, to address a situation where the megillah was already prepared. V'amar eini shoysa, and she refuses to drink. Ma'ar noisa, a mashk noisa b'al karcha, he'll force her to drink. Amar Rabbi Akiva, no. What's the point? The fact that she's refusing is the biggest indication that she's guilty. What's the point of giving her to drink, which is meant to verify a questionable situation? Refusal is tantamount to admission. What's the whole point of giving her the water? To verify her situation. She's fully verified. It's an admission of guilt. There's no point in forcing her. Ella, says Rabbi Akiva, but before the mincha was brought, she could change her mind, walk away without drinking. Of course, that means that she has to divorce, etc., but we don't compel her to drink. Once the kaimitz has been brought, the mincha is done, no backing out. She can no longer change her mind. She has to drink. 1 second, says the Gemara. A minute ago, Rabbi Akiva seemed to indicate that we never force her. It's an admission of guilt. And now he seems to say, no, once the megillah is brought, the mincha is brought, and the water is ready, she can't back out. It's an inherent contradiction, right? According to your approach, meaning you're bringing me Rabbi Akiva, well, tikshalachi gufa. The wording of Rabbi Akiva inherently seems contradictory, because we say, once the kaimitz is brought, the mincha has been prepared, once the mincha is done, there's no backing out, and we force her to drink. What do you mean? I thought it's an admission of guilt. Refusal is admitting. Says the Gemara loy kasha. The answer is like this. Here comes an interesting insight into human psychology. It depends on how she's presenting herself. Is she full of confidence, which would indicate that she's really guilty? Or is she quivering with fear, which leads us to think that she's just intimidated by the water, and therefore she's trying to back out? If she's reverting because of fear, that's not an admission of guilt. That's an indication of lack of confidence and petrification. When Rabbi Akiva says she's a beduka v'medes, this is confirmed. Her refusal to proceed is the raya that she's tummy. That's when she's kohadra v'machmas perusa. She's backing out, but she's full of confidence, which tells us something about her way of thinking. Explains Rashi. She's not scared at all. You know why? Because this was her plan all along. She knew she was guilty, and she says, let me take it till the end. Let me see. Let me take the bluff and see if they really go through the process, and ultimately I could always back out. And that's exactly what she's doing now. She's carrying out her plan with clarity, with confidence. That's an admission of guilt. And that's exactly what Rabbi Kiva is telling us. Kol machmas b'riyus. If she's expressing herself confidently, klal shasa, there's no way we're going to give her to drink. We know she's at fault. We know she's guilty. Machmas b'sisa, however, if she's quivering and shaking and full of fear, in that case, well, she needs a bit of encouragement. And therefore we say like this. Actually, karav kaimetz. Well, it depends, if the mincha was not yet brought, before the Megillah was erased. Inami or imcha Megillah, the Megillah was erased and the water prepared, but it was done before the kaimetz was brought, so it was prematurely. It was ahead of time. The shaloi kedin avid kahanim did not follow orders, did not follow instructions. The shaloi kedin avid kahanim de machki. Who asked them to erase the Megillah at this early point? So in this situation, we can't force her. Matzri hadraba, she can change her mind. It's not too late, because who asked you to prepare the water so early? Once you bring the mincha, and now you prepare the water, the bedin of it kahanim demachi, which was done properly. Kahanim erased the Megillah according to procedure. Now it's too late to back out. Go ahead and drink the water. She can't change her mind. You're afraid? Go ahead and do it. It's not up to you. We're forcing you. You have to follow through to the end. We're not sure what you are. Maybe you're guilty. Maybe you're just afraid. Maybe you're innocent, but you're just intimidated. Go ahead and drink it. Unless you admit that you're tummy. Okay, so again, according to Rabbi Kiva, we have the concept of giving it to her Ba'al Karcha, but that's only if we're not sure. If there's still a question regarding her status. So we see her all intimidated, we don't know what that means, so we give it to her. Provided that we have a right to give it to her if it was prepared at the right time, but if it was prepared ahead of time, and here, let's go, it's ready. Who asked you to prepare it? You can't force me now. You should give me some time. You should give me a chance to reconsider. So at that point, we can't force her. And certainly, if we see that she's overconfident, she's focused, she is machmas b'riyusa, she's fully aware, she's fully confident, calm and serene. Apparently, this was a plot. This was a plan. She knew she was guilty, and all along, she never intended to submit herself to the process. So in this case, there's really no point in giving it to her. We know she's admitting guilt. One more thing we have to verify, says the Gemara. We seem to have a kasha between Rabbi Kiva in this brisa, who tells us that only properly prepared water can be forced upon her, as opposed to the Rabbi Kiva in the earlier brisa, what we explained before based on Rashi, that even if the water was prepared ahead of time, when the time comes, you can force her. She can no longer reconsider. So that's a steer in Rabbi Kiva. Kasha de Rabbi Kiva, ad Rabbi Kiva. Some Amar, in the first brisa he said, Bechika ma'akva. The erasure, that's the critical point. If it's prepared, you can force her, even though it was done ahead of time. She no longer has the ability to reconsider. Vacha Amar kamitz ma'akav, and this brisa he says no. You can't force it upon her unless you gave her proper, due process. You had the mincha brought, and then you went ahead and did the water. Now it's too late. But otherwise, you can't force her. So if a steer within Rabbi Kiva, Trei Tanoi, says the Gemara, these are two Tanoim. Tanoim had different versions. But I'll leave the Rabbi Kiva based on Rabbi Kiva's shita. So we have two versions of Rabbi Kiva. Okay, let's just summarize this. We have two basic approaches. We have the Rabbanon, who say it's water and then mincha. Then we have Rabbi Kiva and Rabbi Shimon, who are pretty much on the same track. They hold mincha and then drinking. Now, it's based on how to learn the psukim, which are structured as follows. First, we have the mechika, where the Torah describes, the writing of the Sefer, erasing it into the water. Then we have the first vihishka, gives it to drink. Then we have a description of the bringing of the mincha. Then we have va'achar yashka, another yashka. And then we have a third vihishka. Rabbanan say, look, it's as simple as that. The first vihishka is the actual seder. You prepare it, you give it to drink, and then comes the mincha. And by the way, Rashi told us a few days ago that even if you drink before the mincha, the water will not actually, be activated. The consequence won't be, experienced until after the whole process, until after the mincha is brought. That's, by the way, a very strong point. So you first give it to drink, and then comes the mincha, which is consistent with the seder of the psukim. The words of achar yashka is telling you have to really scrape it out completely into the water. You can't, have rishumoy nikar. You can't have any trace of the letters. And the last vishka is telling you, look, under all circumstances she will drink. You can even force her to do it ba'al karcha. That's Rabbanon's approach. Rabbi Kiva and Rabbi Shimon hold mincha comes before drinking. But there's a slight, difference between the two shittas in terms of what would happen b'di'evet. So we have like this. Rabbi Kiva, he says that the last vihishka is coming to tell you that it's mincha and then comes drinking. Right? We have the middle of achar yashka telling you rishumei nikar, meaning it has to be fully erased into the water. And we have the first vihishka telling you even bal karcha. And we said bal karcha is only if she's showing signs of fear, right? As opposed to signs of confidence. And according to one approach in the Gemara, under one version of Rabbi Kiva, it's only if the water was prepared in the right time after the bringing of the mincha. Reb Shimon is pretty much on this track, but he differs slightly, because on the one hand he holds that the mincha comes before the drinking, right? And that's learned from the middle lashon v'achar yashka. First comes the shvur, then the mincha, then the erasing, and then comes the drinking. But if we go back to the first vihishka, that tells you, look, b'di'evet, even if there was hashkah first and then the mincha, it works. And the last vihishka is for bal karcha, and of course only if it was done properly after the mincha was brought. Okay, back to the Gemara. Iboilu. So we just finished drawing that distinction, according to Rabbi Kiva, between a confident woman and an intimidated woman. Confidence denotes admission, as opposed to a quivering woman, which does not indicate any admission. Iboilu. Here comes the question. Amra eni shoisa. Suppose she gets up and she says, I'm not drinking this water. And we see she's full of confidence. Machmas b'riyusa, which pretty much indicates guilt. Then she comes and says, I changed my mind, I'm going to drink. So according to Akiva, now we have a big question on hand. What's the situation? How do we deal with this? Shall we say, well, once she admitted guilt, there's no point in giving her to drink. She's willing to drink now. She wants to drink. Mahu. How do we deal with this? Because once she gets up and says, I'm not drinking, with confidence, doesn't that indicate guilt? It's as though she says, I'm tummy. Once she considers herself tummy, show's over. She can't just change her mind. She testified about herself that she's tummy, it's over. There's no point in giving her to drink. Or perhaps you can say, maybe, our evaluation of her emotional state was perhaps erroneous, as indicated with the by the admission, by the change of heart. Not admission, change of heart. The fact that she's coming around and wants to drink, perhaps that is an indication that we had jumped to conclusions too quickly. It indicates that she's perhaps not guilty, otherwise she wouldn't be willing to drink it. Given the Amr Shesani, or perhaps you can say she's not guilty. The very fact that she's willing to drink, Galia Data, indicates that she's not really guilty. The Machmas B'Susahu the Amr, that initially when she refused to drink, it wasn't really a show of confidence. It wasn't really an indication of guilt, indication of a scheme, of a plan all along. No, Machmas B'Susahu the Amr, it was just out of fear, out of intimidation. Now she's overcome her fear and she's willing to drink. Take it, we leave it unresolved. One more Gemara. Amar Avu de Shmuel. Shmuel's father tells us like this. We know that the pasuk refers to the water as mei hamorim, bitter waters. So you would think it's because it has that bitter consequence. No. Zorach sheyitin mar v'tei chamayim. There's a mitzvah to actually put something bitter, some bitter ingredient into that water. My time and why. The pasuk refers to it as mei hamorim, the bitter waters. Shemarim kvar, which were bitter even before he scraped the Megillah into the water, before anything happened. We already referred to it as bitter. Look at the pasuk. It says, he puts together the text, the klaf, and then umacha, he scrapes it out into el mei hamorim, into the bitter waters, before anything happened. Shemarim kvar, which indicates that they were already bitter to begin with. Okay, let's summarize today's daf. We started with the Mishnah, describing the minchas SOTAH, the tnufa of the isha in conjunction with the kohen, hagasha, kmitza, haktara. How do we know that it's a joint tnufa? Well, we connect it to shlamim, and we learn Gzera Shava. In both cases, it's the bailam with the kohen together. What was the sequence of this process? We have a machlekes. According to Tanakama, the Rabbanon, it's mashka v'achakach markavas menachasa. Whereas Reb Shimon and likewise Reb Akiva and the Gemara hold, it's the other way around. First comes the mincha, then comes the ashka of the SOTAH, and of course it's all based on the psukim. We find the repetition, we find the pasuk referring to drinking 3 times, and we had drashis and halachas learned from each one of these psukim. And we concluded, mei hamorim indicates that the water was bitter to begin with. All the best to you. Atzlacha Rabba and Suras Tevis.